Good evening. Welcome to Mental Models with Bill Lennon. This is a show about leadership in general, much of which is grounded in mental models, and then of course we're stacking skills on top of that. This is something that's been bouncing around in my head for a while, and I wanted to do a podcast about it to put it out there, and also, of course, to get people's perspectives on it, get other people's perspectives. Here's the fundamental mental model. That's kind of a mouthful. I don't believe that 10x engineers actually exist. And if they do, I've never actually met one, nor do I think I've met anybody who's ever worked with one. And I've worked with hundreds of software engineers by this point in my career. I don't think they exist, and I think talking about them actually causes damage on multiple fronts. Here's three key areas where I think it causes damage, and I have an alternative suggestion also. So the first damage is that the 10x myth sets up false expectations for individual contributors about how productive they could possibly be and the levels of deliverables they should be able to hit. And this leads them to working more hours than they should. And we know from research that software engineers, or probably anybody who works more than 8 hours, software, I think it's 6.5 now, their bug count goes up, which means they're actually creating negative impact the longer they work. Maybe more lines of code, but negative impact. That's a problem. And it's also a significant contributor to burnout. And I don't want burned out engineers on my teams. The 10x myth also sets up false expectations on the hiring side, where people will not want to make a decision on good talent because they're focused on, I've got to get this 10x engineer. Well, that doesn't exist. And you're passing up really good talent while you're trying to find that mythological person. This wastes everyone's time, time being the equivalent of money. It frustrates the candidates and it slows your team's productivity. So looking for 10x candidates, not a good idea. It's another damaging thing from this mental model. And then it's also an excuse for leaders to not actually learn and hone their craft. And they blame the team's poor performance on them not having any 10x people on their team. It's not that they haven't found anybody, it's the leaders haven't figured out how to build better teams. What I've found that rather than focusing on 10x engineers, I build 2 to 3x performing teams, which are exceptionally achievable if you're willing to focus on leadership. Now, these 2 to 3x teams require a high degree of the leader participating, talking, having self-awareness, building the self-confidence, psychological safety, and the willingness to be vulnerable of the team. This is something that leaders can do. I've done it over and over and over again with different teams, different companies, both on-site and remote. I've done the same process over and over and over again, so I know that it's consistent and repeatable to be able to do this. And you don't have to have some amazing unicorn developer to make it happen. You can get what people have said are just normal developers to instead significantly improve their productivity. And at the same time, they don't feel burned out. You get all the bang for your buck. It takes a different set of mental models to approach a team from this perspective. First and foremost, as a team lead, you have to get that your number one job is to help the team be more productive. If that isn't your foundational starting point as a team lead, then pretty much the rest of it's not going to work. It's kind of like expecting somebody to learn math, but that they're never going to learn counting at the beginning. And as far as I know, you can't do the rest of math if you can't count. The flip side to this is that if you're a team lead who has negative mental models about teams, you're not going to help them to get to the performance levels that are exceptionally possible because the mental models you have are going to get in the way. I'm curious to hear your thoughts about this. I think focusing on the team rather than individual is such an unlock of potential, and I think this is really the conversation that we should all be having rather than where do I go find that one super unusual engineer? Because, like I said before, I've worked with a lot of engineers. Still haven't found any of those folks that are 10x, and I don't know anybody who's ever actually worked with one of those. And my cat wants to join us. With that, have a great night. Thanks.